Good afternoon. To be your own boss is very soul filling. An entrepreneur can create value for oneself and for people around. Recent studies show startup success rate for millennials is at an all-time high. So dear students, why wait? We have the Incubation Cell of Ethiraj College for Women, which aims to kindle the spirit of entrepreneurship among young minds. On this note, I'm happy to welcome aspiring students to the 3-day webinar series Scaling Up the Entrepreneurial Ladder, Drawing the Right Stratagem. It is now my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today's session. We have with us Dr. Chackochen, CEO and founder, Franchising Rightway. He is a management consultant and a psychologist with over 28 years of rich experience in the franchising business world. A veteran business and franchising coach who has worked with more than 850 successful entrepreneurs through the franchising format. He has been recognized for shaping the franchising business in various brands in India. He has contributed to various forums. He is a business strategist with principle of execution excellence. His career started as a computer instructor teaching basics of computer languages. Worked with brands like SSI, Aptech, NIIT, and CAD Center. His recent achievement was to make the saloon brands of Kevin Cat Group, Green Trends, and Limelight a national brand. He was instrumental to get 300 plus sign-ups in just 2.5 years. He is consulting for various brands like Photo Express, Radiant Medical Health, Dream Zone, Synergy, UIM, Blossom Corchar Aroma Magic, Network Systems, Hindustan Group to help them franchise and multiply their brand across the country. He has a master's degree in marketing management, in advertising and PR and psychology, an MPhil in commerce, and a PhD in franchising management. He was awarded the Best Franchise Manager for achievement in creating successful franchisees across the country by FIHL. FICCI and Madras University offered him the Franchisee Excellence Award. National Foundation for Entrepreneurship Development has awarded him a national award for his contribution to entrepreneurship through franchising across the country. Dr. Chackochen is a regular speaker in FICCI, FIHL, and various franchising formats in the country. A regular writer for Franchising India magazine, SME Enterprises, and Dhanam, a Kerala's leading business magazine. He has also been addressing students in various management institutes and universities. A hearty welcome, sir. I once again welcome all our participants for our webinar today. Over to our speaker, Mr. Chackochen.
Thank you very much for the wonderful introduction that you gave me, and it's a pleasure for me to be part of this event today. The topic that was given to me was entrepreneurship and franchising businesses. As you read that I had worked with more than 850 entrepreneurs across country, creating them and also walking along with them to help them to scale up their businesses. So today, many of you are listening to me at this point of time, and I want to tell you that entrepreneurship is a very challenging, enterprise. So I just want to start off by describing an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is an individual who creates a new business, bearing most of the risks and enjoying most of the rewards. Now, the entrepreneur is commonly seen as an innovator, a source of new ideas, goods, services, and business or procedures. Now, this is a technical term that I want to talk about, but I want to tell you that entrepreneurship is basically creating something new and wanting to make this available to many people. Now, I like the two words you mentioned here, bearing most of the risks and enjoying most of the rewards. Now, one of the things that I have seen in my life working with all these people, they all have come out of their existing companies and they have started their own businesses. Now, when they have been working with companies, they think that it is better to become an owner. So they plunge into making themselves into becoming an owner, not knowing the many things that they have to do. Sometimes it's long working hours. Sometimes it is to go and borrow money. So there are so many things that an entrepreneur should do. Now, how can an entrepreneur, start the business? Number one, he could start his business through personal investments that you have personally acquired, or you could do. You need to have the love for money. An entrepreneur should have love for money. The third way of creating the capital is through venture capitals. You can also have venture capitals. If you have a great idea or a product, there will be people who will be coming along with you to invest into your company. So your ideas or your product should be unique, and they should also look at the future of the products. So one of the things that very important thing is that the future should be there for the products that you're creating. You could also raise funds from angel investors. You could raise funds from friends and family. Sometimes you could also, go into business incubations, business uh, grants and subsidies that you get from the government, and business loans. Now, these are some of the ways that you could actually, create funds to start a business. Uh, I mean, these are some of the ways that you could become an entrepreneur. Initially, some of you must be thinking, now, well, how do I become an entrepreneur? These are the 7 or 8 ways of looking to create an entrepreneurship ecosystem, right? Where, first of all, the capital investment is a very important aspect of starting a business. Now, that's the first thing. The second thing is, the most important thing is the idea. The idea, you need to have an idea. So, therefore, I was talking to the professors before we started off. I said, today, in you can be an individual who become an entrepreneur, or a group of people who could become an entrepreneurs. So basically, when you are in college itself, you could decide, you could find 3 or 4 people who are coming together with the same idea or the same passion. For example, some of you may be interested in automobile. Some of you may be interested in beauty. Some of you may be interested in clothing. Some of you may be interested in having a nice boutique, or maybe some of you may start a bakery, a luxury. I mean, a kind of a bakery that offers something very unique and variety of foods that you could be bringing out to the table. Now, these are some of the things, and you could identify this as groups inside the college, and then you start the incubation with identifying the processes for all these things. That could be a great idea to start off and create the ecosystem where you are actually trying out in the 3 years that you're studying, or the 5 years that you're studying. You could create all these things and experiment and make it a brand to actually take it to the market. So what are the various things that you required to become a passionate entrepreneur? There are some personal characteristics that you need to look at. First of all, you need to identify some personal characteristics. Now, what do I mean by personal characteristics? Some of them say, I have a boss who is not very congenial. I mean, he's not very cooperative in my work, so I'm frustrated. Or maybe say I commute for a long period of time and I'm unable to spend time at home. Therefore, I want to start something. What is the reason that you're starting your business? That's a key thing. Is it to make money? Is it to get away from the current job position? Or is it to create, or a passion to create something new? What is the motivating factor? I know a lot of partners, whom I have worked with. They come out with something, in the initial stages, but then later become very, very passionate to drive that business. But at the same time, I also know some of them who came because they had the money. They started a business for their wives, and finally they didn't have passion for the business, and they finally had to close down their business. So there are ups and downs and if you don't have the passion for a particular industry, so I want you to, as young people, I want you to understand that what is that which is actually creating that, that excitement for you. What excites you? That's more important. For example, if you are liking automobile and you want to do something to do with cars or bikes, and then you go and start a restaurant, I don't think you will do very well, because you always had a passion for automobile. Now if you're going to go and start a restaurant, you will not succeed because your interest has never been there. But somebody would have told you, because the food industry is doing very well, you put your money there. But that's not entrepreneurship. Wherever your passion is there, you put your money there. So I will share some personal stories little later, but let us look at this personal characteristics. Now, first of all, we need to have self confidence. You need to have self confidence. You need to have self confidence at the highest peak, so that you are able to negotiate or to navigate many situations that you will come across in your business. So you, first of all, there should be high level of self confidence. That is the important thing to become an entrepreneur. The money and other things will come. First of all, look at what you have inside yourself. Are you confident to start something? Or is your mind saying that I can't do this, but I will try? No, you need to have 100% confidence to start a business of your own. So you need to give your 100%, and you say, I will commit myself to do it for me or to the society, basically for me, because as an entrepreneur, the first thing that you want to do is to make money. You need to have the desire or the love for money. If you don't have the desire or love for money, and if you're looking at, some of them are very passionate about people. For example, a lot of HR people, right? A lot of HR people who have passion for people might join a HR company, but they can't run a HR company, because you can't, you need to have that passion, right? So you could do very well in a company because you have the nuances of touching lives, but as a business you may not be able to do that. That's something which is called self confidence. You need to have self confidence. The second one is, you need to have the risk taking ability. In business, there are so many risks that we have to take, and we need to be prepared to take risk at any time. Today, look at what's happening. And because of COVID, in the last 3 months, we would not have many businesses taking off. But there are some businesses who are in the digital platform or doing something very differently, and they are moving their businesses. So you need to take risks. You need to know how to take risk in business, in life. So you need to have the risk taking ability as an entrepreneur. The next one is, you need to be independent, right? You cannot be dependent on so many people to take decisions. Sometimes you will be alone in making the decision. Sometimes you may take a cohesive decision from others, but ultimately, to go in a particular direction, you are the only one who can take that independent decision, because that's going to be your final call. Even though you would have taken so many opinions from your colleagues, your your partners, or anyone, but the final call will be the owners. Therefore, you need to know how to think independently, right? So being independent is an important aspect of an entrepreneur. For example, you have put money, and then you're assuming that your dad is sitting on the board, your people are sitting on the board and keep on asking you a lot of questions. And it is good to ask questions, but you need to have independence to do things. But at the same time, you need to be accountable to the board, accountable to the management, so that you know where you're going wrong, and also be able to be corrected. So that's what I call as independent. Now you need to be organized. Now, I want to share with you, many entrepreneurs who start their business are very unorganized. because they think as entrepreneurs they can get up at any time and they can go to office at any time. That is a wrong concept that you should have in when you want to become an entrepreneur, because you got to be absolutely organized. That means what time you sleep, what time you get up, what time you get to work. I know a particular CEO or the MD of a company who runs a 1,700 crore company, who is the first one to come to the office and the last one to go back home. Now, that is why the company is 1,700 crores. Now, if you think that somebody else will be doing all your work, I have kept my managers, they will take care of all the business and I will go to sleep or I will go back to my house, that will never be a good business to be in, because you will not have you will surely find it difficult, because somewhere down the line you can, provided you have good managers to work with. But I'm not saying that you as the owner of the company or the entrepreneur should be so organized in your life that everything is looked after. Now, let me give you some basic fundas. The funda is like this. Initially, when you think of entrepreneurship, if you're working for a company, you would have only worked at, probably, you are a marketing guy, you will only look at marketing as one of your verticals. If you are a finance person, you will be only looking at finance. If you are a salesperson, you look at sales. If you're in R&D, you look at R&D. But for an entrepreneur or the owner of the company, you have to look at all these verticals. So the job in your hand is much more than working for somebody. Okay, I'm not going to discourage you, but this is how it is. But some of them enjoy this because they would like to be involved right from the design to the execution, some of the owners. So in the initial startup stages, you will have to get your hands dirty so that you know exactly what's happening on the ground floor. You will exactly know what's on the on the ground, so that you will be able to give the right ideas and right suggestions when it is required. So being organized is a very important thing uh, for an entrepreneur. Now you should also be a solution provider when there are problems, or when they are stuck, when people are stuck with ideas. You should become a solution provider. You should have the knowledge and the nitty gritty of the entire business, so that you people come to you for solutions, and you have to become a solution provider. The quality of a good entrepreneur is to give solutions for the problems. Now, many entrepreneurs do not work long hours. Some of, many, I remember when people start businesses, especially their families and the wives or their children will say, daddy will come back at 6 o'clock. It never happens in a businessman's life. He can never be coming back home on time. So one of the things that you need to understand, or mommy will come back at this time. It's never going to be happening, because as you are stepping out of out of the office, you suddenly have the accounts guy calling you for a signature. Then once he is calling you for a signature, you will have to verify why you are signing those documents. So probably you might have to waste, or you need to give half an hour time for that. By the time, the pressure at your hand will increase, because you are committed to your wife or your children, that you will reach there at home by 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock or whatever time that you have fixed. At the same time, sometimes, you might have a meeting late in the evening, or you might have to go for a business party, and that will lead into 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock that you might get back home. So your sleepless nights will increase. You need to work long time. You might say it is a party, but actually it is a working time, because you are still working with your minds on, because you're looking at connections, you're actually trying to network with people. You're saying, you're giving your business cards to people and say, hey, I'm doing this business, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and you're trying to get connections during these networking meetings. So therefore, life is not going to be like your 9 to 5 job. You will be stretched. At the same time, I want to tell you, whenever you want to take a break, you could take a break. That is the advantage, because you're not reporting to anybody. But however, you need to have a balanced life where you can give some time for your family. There must be an occasion, an occasion in some place, and then you have to go, or maybe you're taking a holiday with your family. All these things can be planned if you can spend time very effectively. So spending time and building up a business in the initial 3 years of your life, for the business, you got to spend more time than 8 hours. 8 hours is absolutely not sufficient for an entrepreneur. He needs minimum 10 to 12 hours. That is what entrepreneurship is all about. You need to spend extra hours on the field so that you can build your business and you can find yourself totally involved in business. So I want to talk a little bit about franchising. Now, franchising, the word became very popular in India in the early 90s because of the IT training companies which was flourishing in those days. So I happened to work in those main companies called NIT, Aptech, SSI, CMC, many companies that was flourishing in those days. Radiant, all these companies were very, very popular, and some of them are still popular even now. For NIT is still available, Aptech is still available. I was working as the country head of CAD Center. CAD Center is still available. CAD Center is a very unique company which caters to the needs of engineering and design. So basically, women who want to become fashion designers could look at their courses in Dream Zone. They have a lot of courses in Dream Zone, and these are companies which are very popular in multiplying their business model in different locations by creating entrepreneurs. Now, why am I talking about franchising? The reason is because some of you may say, well, I don't have the self confidence, I don't have a lot of money, but I don't want to fail. And if I don't want to fail, then I can look at franchising as a business option, and you still can be called as an entrepreneur because it's your money. You're actually buying a solution for becoming an entrepreneur. So these are companies which has created franchising models which you could pick up and then start your own business. So I want to tell you, the word became more popular in the last few years, or let's say the invent of IPL in the sports arena. Franchising is very popular. Now, if you all remember, Chennai Super Kings is a franchisee of the 2020 game. Now, that's because BCCI has created a franchising format, and people have bought these franchising business from them, and it is an entertaining business. Cricket is no more played as a gentleman game, it is more played as an entertainment business. So that is what I'm trying to tell you. In those days, we never had this concept of franchising, but today, if you see, anything and everything, kabaddi is franchised, shuttle is franchised, football is franchised. So you find so many franchise, you know, games have been franchised. So that's the key thing now. So if you create a product or services which could be multiplied, the best format to take this product or services is the franchising mode. So having a franchise, I mean, I have a franchise management PhD. because I'm very passionate for the last 30 years that I've been working with many franchising companies, and I've created more than 850 entrepreneurs across India. And I'm a very passionate promoter of franchising in India. The reason being, 80% of the franchising business will be successful provided you get the right location, or the right product mix for you, and the passion in which you start your business. Or I talked about the passion, what industry are you choosing makes the difference. So I want to talk about little bit about franchising today, so that some of you girls who are here, or boys who are here who are listening to me, would also look at franchising as an option for becoming an entrepreneur. So you may not have big money to buy a cricket buy a cricket team, but you could look at small businesses. For example, an ice cream business to start with, right? You could look at a pizza outlet to look at. You could look at some clothing company, right? Something, a new fashionable jewelry business that you could look at. So I'm just giving you some wide range of businesses for you to look at in the days to come. So franchising is a practice of using another firm's successful business model to make profit for an investor or an entrepreneur. That is franchising. Now let me also reiterate the definition, which I really like: a continuing relationship in which a franchisor provides a licensed privilege to the franchisee to do business and offers assistance in organizing, training, merchandising, marketing, and managing in return for a monetary consideration. Now, why am I saying this is a wonderful, definition which I really like? Is franchising relationship is like a marital relationship. The franchisor and franchisee ties up between each other through a relationship that they enter into, through an agreement that they enter into. Number one. Number two, the franchisor. The franchisor is one who is actually giving the products or the services. They have the brand name, and they are letting their brand name to be used by the entrepreneur who is called the franchisee. SEE, franchisee, means the person who is taking the business is called the franchisee. The franchisor is the one who actually is giving the business. Franchise, FRANCHISE, is considered to be the industry that we belong to. So what does this happen? What happens? Now the franchisor is actually assisting the franchisee in organizing things, in training their staff, providing merchandising, marketing, and managing in return for a monetary consideration. That is called royalty. Now, any franchising company will be looking for sustaining the business through the model of franchisee fees and royalty. So these are two words that you need to understand in franchising: royalty and franchisee fees. We will talk about it maybe someday. Your professors would invite me to do another session on purely on franchising, which I could teach later. But today we are talking about more of entrepreneurship. So before you buy a franchise, we should look at different types of franchising. There's something called master franchise. So somebody wants to bring a brand from, let's say, USA, or Germany, or Canada, or Australia. You can take a master franchise for the entire country. That is called master franchising. Area development franchising, you can look at some one particular area to be developed. Joint franchising, direct franchising, and regional franchising. So these are some of the words that associated with franchising. India is growing at a very fast pace in franchising. 30 to 35% year on year growth happens in this industry. That is the speed at which the industry is growing. Maybe probably because of COVID, things might change. but the industry has been growing at 30 to 35% year on year. This has become an industry today. Now, what are the different, franchisee impacts? You find retail, growing, personal care or personal hygiene products. For example, lipsticks, right? Face washes or beauty cosmetic items. These are some of the industries to be looked at, right? The luxury jewelry, jewelry and bags. These are some of the personal care items that can be looked at. Quick service restaurants, that is another one which you can look at, because these are the fast services that are available right now in the market. Now, some of the leading franchising brands, if you look at the salon industry, you can talk about Green Trends, Naturals, Lakme, Tony and Guy. These are some of the brands that I'm talking about. Clothing, if you look at, you'll have Ginny and Johnny, Jockey, you'll have Biba, you can have what do you call Polo, uh, and Classic Polo is another brand. You can look at Max as a franchising brand. Then Trends, all these are franchise these days. Education and training, NIT, Aptech, Cat Center, all these companies that you can look at. Play schools are another segment that you can look at. Kidsy, Eurokids, these are another set of companies. Food and beverages like McDonald's, Mary Brown, Domino's, all these are another set of, I'm just talking about different verticals for you. Now, what is the success rates? If you look at the success rates of businesses, 77% of the franchise business is very successful. So non-franchise businesses, about 20 through 23 percentage, they fail, but 77 percentage actually are successful if you take a franchising brand, because there is actually a systematic approach to a particular brand. Now, for example, if you take Green Trends as a model or Naturals as a model, they have more than 150 stores in Chennai. Now, how could that be happening? Because they have derived, or they have found a particular methodology or a model to be replicated. That is the success of franchising. So the same formula can be given to n number of people and they could become entrepreneurs. So that is why franchising is a very successful model. Now, I just want to talk a little bit more about before you buy a franchise. For example, some of you want to buy a franchise and become a franchise owner or an entrepreneur. Some of the things that you need to consider before buying a franchise. So I want to talk about this today. Now, first of all, as I've been talking, first of all, you need to have a passion to become an entrepreneur. First of all, you need to say, I want to become an entrepreneur. If you have a mindset of a worker or an office goer, it will be difficult for you. First of all, you need to say, I want to make money in life, and I want to, I love money, and I want to create more jobs. If you have the passion to create more jobs, then you can become a good entrepreneur. Or you want to say, I want to make more money, and then that's a passion that you love. Or you want to say, I want to solve a problem in the society, and I want to find a solution for that, and I have come out with an idea, and that could be your passion for becoming an entrepreneur. The second one is to choose the right industry. I've been talking about it. If you have passion for, if you have passion for school kids or children, then you need to look at clothing, children's clothing as one of the business, or kids toys could be one of your choices, right? Because you love kids, and when kids come to your store, you will enjoy watching them, playing with them, right? So but if you go and start a restaurant, you may not enjoy it. So what will happen after some time? You will decide that you want to quit that industry. And that's not and you might lose a lot of money because you're quitting that industry. So that should not be the case. You need to know how to get into the right industry and take the advice of people, and you could actually gauge that, the inside, you will have a talk inside which says, I want to be in this industry, I love this industry. You also have to look at the viability of the business model that the franchisor is proposing. So you need to know what is the viability of the business model that they are giving to you. So when you are going to buy a franchise, it's important for you to look at the business model. Now, some of them will say, pay me a franchisee fee for, let's say, 3 years or 5 years. And some of them may say, don't pay me any franchisee fee, but you pay me only royalty. Now, some of them will say, pay me franchisee fees and also royalty. These are some of the models. Some of them will say, no royalty at all. Just give me one fee at one time. These are different models that they have, and we need to be clear about getting into the model, and will this model sustain your business? That's what we have to look at. How long can this industry survive? Now, for example, two industry that I want to talk a few industry that I want to talk about is, one is the food industry, which is very good. The second industry, because food, as long as human being lives in this world, we have to eat. So, but if you give quality, look at Sarana Bhavan as an example. Look at Sangeeta as an example. These are places where you go and dine, and they provide quality food for all of us, right? So that's another example. The second example is clothing, right? Clothing will not die, but again, fashion will change. So if you're not going to look at the fashion and season, you will not be able to survive. But sometimes you may have passion for clothing, so you can look at that. Another industry. Now, the best industry today in the market is the healthcare industry. With COVID affecting all of us, I mean, the country, today healthcare industry has become one of the thriving industries. So it could be starting off a pharmaceutical company, or manufacturing certain equipments for the industry, or maybe opening a pharmacy could also be a good business to be in. So that's another thing that you could look at. As people, you could come together to create a value based product that people could buy. So that is another industry. And the salon industry, which is actually a very good industry, because people are very conscious about the looks, and therefore people spend money on beauty industry. So that's another industry that you could look at. Now, identify the number of players in the industry. That means, for example, if you are taking the salon industry, look at the number of players that are there. I'm talking about the major players are Naturals, Green Trends, Tony and Guy, and other brands that are there. Now, these are some of the players, but at the same time, if you don't have a brand near your house, you can always look at bringing that brand closer to you. So that's what you have to look at, identifying the number of players so that you can identify what is the competition offering. So the next thing is, look at the company and the franchisor profile, meaning some of the companies may start, for example, there are some franchising companies I know of where they don't even have a product or services, but they would have started franchising or trying to take money from others to build their own business. Never put your money in such companies. Always look for good brands, because otherwise your money is at stake. So do not put your money in small time companies and waste your money, because they will not have money to run the franchise operations. Therefore, it's very important for you to look at who are the owners of this company, what kind of a background. For example, if you're going to look at a company like Tata's or a Reliance, you will be happy because they have the kind of money, right? For example, a Titan showroom, right? Titan watches, or for example, Nilgiris. These are companies which are having money, and if you're taking a brand from them, they will be able to support you. But if you're going to a small brand, Whatever money that you had, you have put in. But unfortunately, recently I was talking to a person who actually started a business in Mysore. This was a company which came all the way from North India to establish, stores in South. So one of my friend who got out of his, he earned a lot of money from a corporate company, came out, all his savings he put in starting a departmental store. Unfortunately, as he was doing it for the 6 months, he thought it is doing very well, and he invested in the second store also in the same city. When he invested in the second store, the company which gave them the franchisee ran away from Mysore, and they are absconding today. Now, these are some of the things that you need to look at. Whom are you investing with is a very important thing. Even if the franchising concept or franchising money is slightly higher, it is better to go with a brand and not with the unknown brand. You need to look at the vision, mission, values, and ethos of the franchisor. Very important to understand these vision, mission, values, and ethos of the franchisor. Financial stability of the franchisor. That means, do they have money? Is very important. Legal and statutory requirements. You need to look at the legal and statutory requirements when you sign the agreement. Take it to a lawyer, read it very well. But the company may not want to change, but you have the rights to also read it and ask for some changes if you have a good lawyer, because always the agreement of a company will be one sided, because to protect themselves. But we can also ask them to change if you are sharp enough, right? There is no franchising agreement law for franchising in India. Okay, but the Contract Act 1872 and the Specific Relief Act of 1963 is what being used to control the franchise agreement today. The next thing is you need to look at whether they have the R&D. Every company should have an R&D, product innovation. So we need to look at if they're continually bringing out new products. Some of the franchisors live with the old products. By the time a competitor will come and introduce some new products, they should have the tenacity to bring in new products in a twinkling of an eye. That means the market needs it, they should be able to bring it into the market. That's the kind of a company that we need to sign up. So be very clear and ask these questions. Do you have an R&D department to bring in new products and services? Now you need to also look at support system, the 3 P's that we talk about: people, processes, and procedure. How is the company receiving you when you are going to take a franchise? Do they have people in place to talk to you, or is the owner himself is talking to you? Is there a process that they have? Is there a procedure that they follow? These are very important things before you sign up or before you take the franchise from them. Now we also have to look at the profitability. They will give you a ROI report. The ROI report will talk about if the business is like this, if you are making so much of money, this will be the profit that you will receive. But unfortunately, in many franchising companies, this will not be real. That is only a document that they provide. But you need to understand that as entrepreneurs, when we are signing up, we need to be clear to ask, what is the profit margin that I will get if I make X amount of money? And as an entrepreneur, it is your responsibility to see that whatever the franchising company is telling you to do, you should do so that you will make money. Otherwise, you will not be able to make money. So I want to recommend that look at what is the profit, 20% or 30% or 15%. What is the profit margin? Now we need to ask such hard question to the franchisor. Check with the existing franchisee, right? If they already have some franchise, make sure that you are checking with them so that you actually know what the other franchisees are giving as feedback to you. That is very important for you when you're buying a franchise. Also, take the feedback from the end user. For example, let's say you're going to buy clothing company, so you might have some people who are using those products. So you might ask some of them, hey, how is the product? You will get a feedback from them saying that, hey, the product is excellent, people love this product. So, for example, let's say Louis Philippe. Now everybody knows the brand called Louis Philippe. And if you ask any man, he would love to have a Louis Philippe shirt with him, because when he wants to go to a meeting or somewhere, he wants to have a Louis Philippe shirt, or he wants to look at an Arrow shirt, right? So these are brands that are there. And if you ask an end user about these shirts, they will say high quality. Now, if you want to buy a franchisee of Louis Philippe or of an Arrow, store, you're very confident that there will be some people who will come and buy it. So therefore, we need to be able to understand these nuances when you buy the franchise. Now, once you have decided these things, you just have to buy them and sign up with them. Don't delay the process. Don't see, keep on, is it a good thing to do? Is it a bad thing to do? If you keep on asking 10 people, they will all give you different ideas. And then finally, you will never become an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is one who takes risk. That's what we saw. But buying a franchisee is not as risk as becoming your own entrepreneur. Therefore, it is not as risky as becoming your own entrepreneur. So I would suggest that once you have made your mind, you are free to decide quickly and sign up and start your business immediately. So that's about becoming a franchise of any company. These are my contact details. My name is Dr. Chacko. My mobile number is 9884051455, and my email ID is chacko at the rate franchisingRightway.com. franchisingRightway.com. The reason for franchising right way, there are wrong ways of doing franchising, and I don't believe in suggesting wrong ways of doing business. I believe in ethical businesses. Therefore, my company's name is called Franchising Right Way. I thank you for this opportunity, for helping me to be on board with you today to share my passion on franchising and entrepreneurship. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your words of wisdom. We'll move on to the question and answer session now.
Yes.
We'll move on to the question and answer session now, sir.
Yeah.
How can entrepreneurs overcome the ongoing COVID-19 crisis?
Well, we'll have to wait and watch, because the first thing is people are not able to go to work. Okay, so it's a reality, and I'm sure most of us are working from home. So there are some businesses which can, for example, the IT companies can still work because they can use the platform of using a laptop and work. But a manufacturing company cannot do that. So I know a lot of my friends who are manufacturing company owners are finding it very difficult to go and do business. But I'm sure the time will come for all of us to get out of it, and we'll be able to, think when things not become normal, life will become normal for all of us.
Very true, sir. Next question, please. What's the biggest X factor you possessed that helped you become successful?
Determination is one of the things that I could talk about. The other thing is there was a drive within me which actually said that when you take up a job, if you read my profile, you will find execution is the key for success. Now we could have different plans. There are so many people who will give some, excellent. I call them as, plans on paper. But these plans can be on paper, but unless you have a good executor in your team, you cannot become successful. So therefore, in my companies that I worked for, they looked at me as one of the executionist specialists. If a job is given to me, I will ensure that it is completed. So that was the one quality that I have which has helped me to be successful.
Very inspiring, sir. Next question. How long does it take normally to break even in a new business?
It depends on business to business, what kind of investments you have made. So capital investment is one side, and you also have a running cost that you have to, manage. So the initial thing is you're looking at a break even of operational cost. That means the OPEX break even is what you look at initially. And then as we move forward, you're also looking at the capital expenditure break even. So that could happen according to the business that you're owning. So a restaurant business will take, 24 months, or a salon business will take about 18 to 24 months. You have an investment of 50 lakhs for it to break even, right? But if you have an operational break even from the third month, you are very successful in running the business. Now initially you will not get 1,000 customers to walk into your store, but once you reach a mark of 1,000 people coming in a month, I think your break even point is already come. So each business will have its own break even. So we can't say when it will come. You need to discuss with your auditor and find out what is your capex that you have invested, and then your OPEX, and then see a mid path to see in how many number of months that you could break even. Uh, you need to work out. That's why I said some of them have a nice break even point written down in a paper, but in reality it may not happen.
Sure, sir. Next question. Many startups are shut in their early stages. What is your perspective on sustenance in the current scenario?
Now, see, one of the things about startups, in my understanding, I may be wrong, is that people have a lot of ideas. So they come out with ideas very, young, energetic. But what they lack is the efforts to do marketing. They may not have a good marketer in the team. They may not have a good salesperson. Many people who do startups are technical people. They have so much of ideas, and they come out, they're so passionate. They may work for 16 hours or 18 hours, and they will work very hard to create the product, but they will not have people to sell these products. So that is the catch. So if you're starting if you're doing a startup, it's important to have these set of people also in your team so that you can push this product into the market. But many startups find, by the time they come to the stage, the money is exhausted, and therefore they sink down. So the key thing is marketing and execution is important in any startup.
Definitely true. Next question. As an entrepreneur, will you suggest the franchise model or non-franchise model to aspiring entrepreneurs?
As an entrepreneur, for example, if you're looking at one store or a one, I'm happy by supplying, or some of them are manufacturing and supplying, right? So they may be very contented with supply chain management, or manufacturing and supplying, and they have good distributors across, and they are okay. But I want to tell you, when the generation changes, the new young entrepreneurs who are wanting to come into the market, they decide to have stores of their own. So when they start their own stores, then they look at the look and feel that they want to give to the customers. Now, once they do that, then they start thinking about multiplying the stores because they want to replicate the same in different locations. So it all depends on the entrepreneur what he wants to do, right? So I can't say whether which is the right thing to do, but it all depends on the vision of the person. What kind of a vision you have? Is it going to be a local vision or a global vision? Based on that, you will decide how to move into a franchising mode or into a stable, one or two stores model, whichever is viable for that particular person.
Maybe it can be even a combo of the two.
It can be a combo of two. Yes, there are some companies which say I will have 10 stores of mine and I will just do it. I will
Yeah.
not give franchise, and I will only like, for example, I can only cater to Chennai. That's enough. I don't want to go out of Chennai. So it's all a business decision, and it's based on product based. Whichever product that you want to bring it to the table, that is the base that which we want to look at.
True, sir. Question, please. What is your main source of motivation during tough times?
We all have read probably tough times do not last, tough people will last.
True.
And I'm sure that you would have probably read that book. And I've read that book many times when I go through the lowest point in my time. Uh, I talked about various characteristics of a person. Now, those are the important things that will actually help us, right? Self confidence, being organized, learning new things, discovering new avenues of growth. All these things have really helped me. As you look at my, uh, during this COVID, I'm basically an entrepreneur coach, right? Helping people to do business. But during this COVID time, I can't do that because all business were closed. That's when I thought about I have a psychology background and I have a family life education background. So therefore, I I created my flyers and I put it on Facebook and other medium where I was able to do 48 counselings in the last two months, and I also made some money.
Oh, very
So
nice.
so that is important. How do you look at an opportunity? I thought COVID could be a very disastrous thing for me because I'm not going to go out anymore, but I look at it as an opportunity for me because I had a degree in the space of counseling, and I decided that I want to make use of it as a business opportunity, and therefore I started my counseling business, and that's doing very well now.
Very nice, sir. So that was the last question for the day. Uh, Thank you, sir, as we come to the end of the day one session of this webinar series. On behalf of the Incubation Cell of Ethiraj College for Women, I take this opportunity to thank Mr. Chackochen for accepting our invitation and sparing his time to address all the aspiring student entrepreneurs. I thank you, sir, for the inspiring words and taking us through the important traits required to survive among competition, also throwing light on the significance of franchising and its prominence in entrepreneurship, and for actively engaging in question and answer session. Big thanks to each one of our participants for making this session a successful one. Thank you, sir, and thank you all once again.
Thank you very much. God bless you. Thank you.
A quick announcement before we end this live session. The feedback link will be posted in the description as well as in the chat box. I request all the participants to fill the same within an hour to provide us with your feedback on today's session. I repeat, the feedback link will be posted in the description as well as in the chat box. I request all the participants to fill the same within 1 hour to provide us with your feedback on today's session. Looking forward to seeing you all for day 2 session tomorrow from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Thank you and good day.